Alright, so today's score is Metamusik by Valentyn Silvestrov. I'll pull it up here. Alright, so no front matter on this one. This is a Ukrainian composer. This is a piece they wrote in 1992. It's very typical of their style, which is very idiosyncratic. I'll sort of let it explain itself here. The instrumentation, it looks like we got at least, just based on the first page, 2 2 2 2, 4 2 2 or 4 2 3 1, and then 3 percussionists, celesta, harp, piano, and strings. And we have to have a flute 2 doubling on piccolo, clarinet 2 doubling on bass clarinet, and then second bassoon is mostly contra, doubling on bassoon. What's interesting, you'll notice right off the bat with this piece, is the piano, harp, and celesta kind of play throughout this like unfolding line, and it's doubled by all the other instruments in the ensemble at different like at the unison, basically. So the rest of the ensemble is sustaining, sort of acting as a damper pedal to the notes happening in the instruments with a bit more attack. So Valentyn Silvestrov was born in 1937 and is still alive today. He has, lived through, he's lived in Ukraine his whole life. Even when it was part of the Soviet Union. And it seems like most of his life is centered around the city of Kiev. And people consider his style of writing postmodern, although you could call it like neoclassical, as they do use like traditional tonal and modal techniques. The closest thing I can think of to what he's doing was like stuff that Barrio occasionally does when he works in a more tonal kind of idiom. You can see most of his works are for large ensemble, but then he has a couple other pieces for like very traditional classical ensembles like string quartet and violin and piano. If you need access to the recording I'm listening to, it's in the video description. I will not be providing the score as it is copyrighted, but I do encourage you to try and find it in your local music library if you are like a music student at a university, for example, or if you know somebody who's going to music school, maybe you can get a hold of it through them. Okay, yeah, I'll make my comments brief here because my laptop's running out of battery. But yeah, it was really nice to revisit this piece. I think the last time I heard it was way back in like 2017, 2018. And I forgot how intricate the score was, and there's all these like fluctuations of tempi. There's a lot of sections where things are just coordinated by the pianist, and there's like no bar lines, which is really interesting. And I kind of forgot how essential the piano part is. It really is like a piece for piano and orchestra. So that's probably how I'm gonna label the video. Yeah, in terms of like this approach to composing, it's obviously like something that's very hard to imitate with something that's very hard to borrow from without completely imitating it, because it's such a specific thing for 47 minutes. You have a lot of these like flourishes, which are kind of chordal sounding, stacked fifths and fourths and things. And then you have like sections of what I would describe as like everything's a suspension. Like you have these very like almost tacky sounding like tonal ideas You know, there's like this constant resolving of tension by step. So there's like this sort of like suspensions everywhere kind of sound. And I think it sort of reminds me of like when I first started doing counterpoint exercises in my undergrad. That was the type of thing I would play at the piano, right? Because once you learn how to hear dissonances and how to resolve dissonances, you just you hold down the damper pedal and do stuff like this. And I think it sort of like captures that sort of joy of discovering um, intervals and harmony and like these building blocks of tonal music. And it is hard not to get wrapped up in it because it's such a tried and true like cultural um, image, but I think or cultural object, but he uses it so much over such a long period of time that it does have almost a postmodern like sensibility where you kind of aren't sure if it's ironic or like what like why is it happening. Yeah, this is 1992, so modernism was sort of on the downfall, and the Berlin Wall had recently fallen, so there was no longer this like competition between the Soviet Union and the rest of um, the Western world, you could say. So I think it is definitely a piece of its time, um, and it's a reminder of this sort of post Cold War age that we have to work in as composers. So yeah, that's Metamusik, and I think the next score is something completely different. Yeah, so we got some Bad Führer, one of the few orchestra pieces by him I have.